Okay, we're on the bottom of 19a. About 8 lines in the bottom of the 2 dots. We're talking about daitike matana. What exactly is a daitike? Tana Rabbanan Ezehu daitike. What is daitike? Dot tehela mekem belios shemes nechasav uplane. Basically, in English, they call it a will. In Talmudical jargon, it's called the matnas shchiv mira, the gift of a person who's deathly ill. Okay, and the rule is kol shekosav by mehayom l'achar. 1 second. Okay, so that is a will. There's another way to do it. There's a matana, a gift, is kol shekosav by mehayom l'achar misa. If the guy wrote, "I'm giving you today after I die." Okay, so let's explain. There's 2 types of gifts. There's a gift of a shchiv mirah. There's a gift of a healthy person. Both of these gifts are after the guy dies. The gift of somebody who's deathly ill, as long as he says this should belong to somebody else after I die, that gift is considered valid. The gift of a healthy person, on the other hand, has to be legitimate, meaning it has to fulfill the necessary requirements of a gift, which in this case would be, I'm giving you today, but you can only get it after I die. With regard to a shchiv mirah, somebody's deathly ill, the rabbi said whatever he says should be a kinyan. It should be executed. Because the guy is deathly ill, and we don't want him to sort of suffer with concern that what he says won't happen. So that's the difference here between a daitike and a matana. Again, a daitike is the will of a deathly ill person, a person who's about to die. And a matana, a gift, could be the same type of gift, just that he's healthy at the time. Okay, Alma, we see from here, So Gemara points out that the gift of a healthy person, it must indicate from today after I die, in order for the kinyan to work. If not, then the kinyan would not be valid. Okay, so the Gemara here presumes as if that every gift would have to be after somebody dies. In other words, we're defining daitike as a will of a person who's on his deathbed. We're defining a regular gift as a healthy person who's also giving after he dies. So the Gemara is sort of asking, like, is that the only type of gift that's possible? Can you give a gift when you're alive? So Abai explains, Abai explains, So Abai explains, no. We're just explaining the mission that there's 2 ways to give a gift after you die. There's a gift of a deathly ill person called the matnas shchiv mirah. There's also a gift of a healthy person after he dies, which its effect is similar to that of shchiv mirah, but it requires a very specific language. And of course, you can give a regular gift as well that is not associated with death. Okay. So the Gemara says, "Time and the Mishnah seems to imply, because the guy does, they find the will on the floor. They say the Mishnah says you don't give it back, you don't return it. But let's say he says the will is valid, then you could give it back. Nice, and you can give it back. Varaminu, we have a question. Motza you find wills, these gifts of a shchiv mirah. We'll see what an apotki is soon. Matana is a regular gift. Apotki basically is a specified lien. So you borrow money and you specify the lien should be in a very specific field. Even if they both admit that you do not return it to either the borrower or either the giver in this case, if it's a will, or the recipient. Okay, so we seem to have a contradiction. In other words, our Mishnah seems to imply that if they both admitted, then you would return the item. And the Braita seems to imply if they both admitted, you do not return the item. Fair enough? So it's not difficult. Depends whether it's a bori or a shchiv mirah. Okay, just see the article for a second. explain because let's see if they explain this. They do explain it. It's interesting. So some there are textual versions that basically pull out a half of the number. And legitimately, it's argued that this is not. It was written at a later point, and by one of the Gaonim. It's very unusual, uncharacteristic of Talmud Bavli. Okay, basically, so let's explain here. A shchiv mirah gives a gift, right? Someone who's deathly ill, he's allowed to change his mind. He changed his mind. So basically, the potential concern here is that what happened was he wrote two different gifts. And he gave the first gift he decided not to give. He gave the second document. So let's say the deathly ill person wanted to give a gift to Reuven and to Shimon. He wrote out two documents. Reuven, he decided he's not giving two, he's going to give it to Shimon. And then he changes his mind and he gives it to Reuven. Okay. Now, let's say Reuven's document is lost. We're concerned. In the case of Shimon, there's no concern, because if the guy says give it to Reuven, and effectively invalidating Shimon's document, which was written a day later, that's fine, because he could change his mind if he wanted to as well. Right? Mm-hmm. However, let's say he was a healthy person, that's where the concern is. So he wrote Reuven a gift document on January 1st, he wrote Shimon on January 2nd. He decided not to give it to Reuven and give it to Shimon. Then he changed his mind and decided to give it to Reuven. So what's he going to do? He's going to pull out of his hat the second document and give it to Reuven, and lose it, and then he'll admit that it belongs to Reuven, right? Even though he doesn't have any right, he can't change his mind at that point. So, in other words, when does the Bryce say that you could change when does the Bryce say you could return the document if they both admit in the case of a shchivira? Because if he could change his mind, why shouldn't he be able to return the document as well? Whatever authority he has over the document, maybe it's nothing, but he could still change his mind. He could effectively do whatever it says in the document as well. Whereas by a healthy person, he can't change his mind. So then we don't return the document because we're concerned there might be a second document. We're good? This is, in a nutshell, is the next half a number. Let's read it inside. The Gemara sort of proposes what exactly the possibilities of risk are here. Okay. Mastis the Amr Diktani Hamar 2 nice and then okay, it's not the Diktani that Lenesti pulled out. Okay. The Mishnah that seems, it's not really Diktani, it's really that implies Ha'amar Tunu Naisnin, that if the guy admits to it, we return it. It's talking about B'shchivin with the person who's deathly ill. The Bar Mahederhu, you can return the item. The Amrina and Michael Amemar, Dilma Kostam Ikar Lahai, the Imlach V'liyavanile. What's the concern? Maybe originally he wrote a document to Reuven, this document that was lost. V'liyavanile did not give it to Reuven. V'hadr Kostal and Shachron, and then he wrote Shimon on January 2nd. V'yavanile, and he did give it to Shimon. Okay. Hashtag Hadrbe Mehudi Yavanile. And now he's going to return it. Now he's sort of changing his mind from giving it to Shimon. He's going to give it to Reuven. Okay, even Asbari, but on the other hand, if he gave it as a gift of a healthy person, Yavanile, let's say though, isn't there a potential loss? The chinafki tarte basraisa. I'm sorry, the chinafki tarte basraisa zachi. The hadrabe mekamaisa. 1 second. What happened was, if this is a gift of a healthy person, once they have both documents present, the first guy's document wins, right? Because it's January 1st. It's predates the other one. Okay, however, if with regard to a shchimira, there is no loss. Why? Let's say the basrais is that it's fine if he changes his mind. He's allowed to. So there's no legal loss to Shimon. Shimon has the second document, but he got it first. Then effectively the deathly ill man changes his mind and gives it to Reuven. Right? Reuven has the first document, but he never got it, at least initially. And now the Shchimra can change his mind. When When the Brisa says don't return it at all, even if they admit, what's that referring to? Bibori. It's talking about a healthy person. The lav armor header. He can't change his mind. Maybe he wrote the document to Reuven on January 1st, but he never gave it. He never gave the gift to Reuven. And then he wrote it to Shimon on January 2nd, and he gave it to Shimon. Effectively, now he's changing his mind. He doesn't want to give it to Shimon. He wants to instantiate Reuven's document on January 1st, which was never given. I can't change my mind. So what he says, he can't change his mind because he's a healthy person. So what could he do? What he could do is he can give Reuven the first document. Remember, he never gave the gift to Reuven. He wrote it but never gave it. So he can give the first document to Reuven. One second. Okay, so that the chimafik high kisva, the kodem. So this way, when Reuven's document now appears in the court, which is predates Shimon's document, zachabehu, then Reuven will be able to get it. So in other words, over here he's able to trick Reuven. He's able to trick Shimon out of his legitimate gift by returning the document to Reuven, or by losing it and admitting that it belongs to Reuven. Together. Mm-hmm. Okay, El Amrinalai, Anan Haikis, Valoyavinalai, Lahai. So what do? We say we're not returning it. Dilma Kosva may have loyalva. Maybe they wrote it but never returned it. And he gave a gift to somebody else, and now he's changing his mind. Okay. So in other words, we're concerned about this possibility. Now, what happens if he didn't give it as a gift? Okay, so now what happens if the whole story, if we're giving you a whole long spiel, and maybe he gave a gift to somebody else afterwards, right? And this document was never transacted. What happens if that whole spiel is not true? What's the solution? Simple solution. Write a new document today. And give it to Reuven. Because now, if he did give it as a gift to somebody else, there is no loss. Why is there no loss? Because Shimon's document now predates Reuven's document. Reuven, you claim this document should be given back to Reuven? No, we're not giving it back to Reuven. What are we going to do? We'll write Reuven a new document. And now, if he really gave it to Shimon a month ago, then Shimon will have a predated document. And this document won't be valid. There will be no loss. There will be no potential loss to Shimon. Good. Mm-hmm. Okay. Maskev or Zvid. So Zvid asks, you're telling me that one's a gift of a healthy person, one's a will of a death man, a deathly ill man. But it's not true. They both say that we're talking here about wills of people that are about to die. Katani El Amar Zvitzer. This says Hava Habishkamira, Veloy Kacha Habe Habebrei. One is referring to his son, one is referring to himself. Let's explain. And basically it's the same concern as previously. So let's explain. According to the opinion that says that if the guy says Tnu, he acknowledges the lost document, you return it. But today it's talking about the Shchiv Mirah himself, the deathly ill man himself, the Bar Mahedro, he could change his mind. The Kamma Basar Zochi, the Hodrbe, Mikamo. Okay, by Shchiv Mirah, he can always change his mind. If he can always change his mind, then you can always return a document, right? You can always return a lost will. Because effectively, even if it's not true what he's saying, it's no different than if he changed his mind. Right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Kigatani Bryce Alpha Shnei Modim Lo Yachselo Zevelo Zeb Bebray. 1 second. When the Mishnah says you can't return it, that's talking about his son. The Amrina were concerned. Maybe the father wrote the gift to this guy. He wrote the first gift to Reuven, but he did not give it as a gift. Ubasar demisavor. Yeah, and after the father died, the son actually gave it as a gift to somebody else. So now it's effectively the gift of a healthy person. So now he wants to change his mind and not give it, and the son doesn't want to give it to Shimon. So what does he say? Okay, so what's he doing? He's playing a game here. What happened? Here's the actual story. The father wrote a gift to Reuven and never gave it to Reuven. Then the father died. The son gave it to Shimon. The son regrets giving it to Shimon. So he has a great solution. He says, this document that I have from my father, I'm going to lose it, and then I'll admit that it's valid, and we'll split it. So this way I don't have to give it to Shimon. I'll get the property. You'll get the property back. You'll pay me half. You'll kick it back. That's the potential concern. So therefore, we'd say, we will not return the lost document. Maybe the father wrote it but never gave it, and you were the one who lost it, with the intention the other guy should pick it up, so that you could change your mind. If you're saying the truth, that it belongs to you, or if you're saying the truth that your father sold it, so here's a solution. Go ahead and write a new document dated today. Why? Because even if the father didn't, because let's say you gave it to Shimon in the interim. If that's the case, let's say the Kamma Bas or Kamma Zachi, because now you'll have a post-dated document, or you'll have a document that's dated today, and it won't be able to invalidate any previous gifts that you have given. So if the son is saying the truth here, the son can write a new document dated today. And if the son is lying because he gave it as a gift a few days ago, then this document will have no power over the recipient of that first gift. Good? Mm-hmm. Okay, Tana Rabbanon. The rabbis taught. Matzah Shaiver, Bismancha Isha Maida, Yachsel Baal. He finds a receipt. If the woman, receipt for a ksuba. So if the woman admits it belongs to the husband, return it to the husband. But if the woman does not admit, don't return it at all. Okay, so Gemara says, okay, if the woman admits, you give it back to the husband. The Gemara says, okay, what does that mean? So basically, we've seen this a few times before. There's a way to bet on a divorce. The way to do that is to buy the ksuba, right? You buy now. Obviously, there are three possibilities of how the ksuba will end, right? Either they'll get divorced, in which case the woman gets the ksuba, or the husband will die, in which case the woman gets the ksuba, or the woman will die, in that case the husband gets the ksuba. Good. Mm-hmm. Now, what's the greater likelihood? The bigger likelihood is the woman, right? Presumably, especially in modern times, women live longer, right? And divorce is more likely. So you have more possibilities that the ksuba will actually be validated than otherwise. The only possibility that she won't get the ksuba is if she dies first, right? Mm-hmm. However, ksuba is a debt. Like, you don't have any benefit from it until the debt is executed, until you actually have to pay it. Unlike the husband has an obligation for his ksuba, but he has property that he could use until he dies, or until he divorces his wife. So actually, the husband has the bigger premium here, because his premium is more useful. The woman's premium, it's just a betting premium; it's an option. So, but the woman is nevertheless able to sell the ability to collect her ksuba. Why isn't there a concern here that maybe the woman sold her ksuba So in other words, they got divorced in Nisan. She sold the ksuba between Nisan and Tishrei. She wrote a receipt in Nisan, but actually only got the ksuba in Tishrei. In this case, her sale is legitimate because she didn't sell the ksuba yet. Right?
Mhm.
But the receipt here is basically going to cheat the buyer out of any potential payments. Because she's writing a receipt back in Nisan the day she was divorced, even though she never received the money until later. Together?
Yeah.
So the answer is Amar Rav Shmamina Isa the Shmuel, the Amar Shmuel, Hamechash Lechev Chaver Chazer Mochlay, Mochel Vafilu Yeresh Michael. Okay, so the answer is Shmuel. The answer is that the truth of the matter is, if I borrow money from Eric, okay, and Eric sells my loan to Jared, and then Eric decides that the goodness is hard to forgive my loan. The rule is that Jared cannot collect. It's a very mean thing to do. The Gemara says anybody who gives such advice is considered a willy wicked man.
Yep.
He's intelligent, but he's wicked. You're not supposed to give such advice, but that remains the law. The law is Shmuel. You could forgive the loan. Again, I borrowed money from you. You sold the loan to him. You could forgive it, even though you sold it. Okay. So in this case, the woman effectively could always forgive her husband's ksuba, and the buyer gets zilch. So there's no potential concern. If that's what she wants to do, fine. She could effectively do the same thing. All she needs to say is, "I forgive the loan." Okay. Okay, we'll stop here. I don't need the last response. I'm sorry again for I don't know why my alarm was set, but I was actually sleeping. Actually,